it's also giving people personal responsibility, that accountability, that ownership, and just how important, Dr. Stephen, that is, that we as leaders, that's what you do as a great leader. You give people hope, which hope, I love the definition, is the confident expectation of good. That is powerful. And then with that comes a personal responsibility. And that's how we get to that.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast, chiropractic's #1 business podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
Hey guys, happy New Year. I don't know when you're listening to this, maybe it's just a week before New Year or the week after New Year. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but we are really super stoked to have this conversation that we have every year. It's more than a tradition. It's a ritual. You know, there's routines and there's rituals. Routines are things that you have to do. Rituals are things you get to do. Dr. Pete, I know that we share just a passion for this end of year energy because this is the catapult, right? This is the catapult. How you end your year is how you start your year. Now, right? So we are looking forward to a super powerful 2025 coming off of that, just an incredible 2024. Man, we've got an awesome season ahead. As we look ahead and we vision cast for the year ahead, we're super optimistic and always bullish and ambitious. But you know what? So much of that confidence comes from our ability to assess, right? Mm-hmm. So our ability to look back and just assess the year. And so we can just go into the next year just with confidence and certainty and be bold, right? Because we've actually looked back and we said, you know what? Where did we win? What did we learn, right? So the powerful appear process that we teach in the Remarkable Practice is our manifestation formula for exactly how do we make the next iteration of our business and our lives appear, right? So the appear process is an acronym for assess, plan, prepare, execute, assess, report, and repeat. We've been in the throes of that with the last couple of episodes. So we are loaded for bear, brother. I'm excited to have this conversation with you as we look back at the year, you know, that just passed 2024, just so awesome. And we preach what we practice, right? We're going to have our conversation around personally. What was our experience of 2024? And where do we win? What do we learn? This is really the lessons learned conversation. So we could talk about all the wins. Gosh, we're just so grateful to be so favored and so blessed to be chiropractors at a time such as this. Just been given so much territory and we just so thankful for that, right? So we could talk a lot about the winnings, but I think we all share one thing in common in that we learn more from the lessons. So the challenges, the hard-earned lessons of the year. I think that there's so much more juice in that for our audience. So we're going to focus today's episode on lessons learned in 2024.
Well, I'm going to be really honest here in this conversation. So when, you know, preparing for this this episode today, you know, I knew this was coming, and it was interesting in my preparation, just thinking about, you know, lessons learned. And we say wins and learns. I just felt strongly like, you know what, I don't really want to talk about the wins. I want to talk about the learns. So Doc, I'm glad that we can do that. We obviously had lots of wins. We have so much to be grateful for. This isn't one of my lessons learned, but it was one of the things I've been reminded of. And so probably it is a lesson learned, but that is the importance of gratitude. And I just want to say this as we get this, this conversation started, is how important it is for us to be grateful. You know, how much we have to be grateful for. I've walked through a lot of hard things this year with people who are close to me and who I love. I have experienced loss. I've experienced a lot of pain. I've walked through things in my own story, internally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. I've walked through things with other people. And, you know, one thing that has stayed the same that I've had to remember all the way through is, man, I have so much to be grateful and thankful for. I know that you're listening to this right now, and there's things that are hard. There's things that you might say, man, I'm having a hard time seeing the good in this. You know what those things are right now. And I'm going to say this to you. I believe it's actually the hardest things and the hard things in our life that are the wrapping paper of the greatest gifts that you could open. And just like at, Christmas and kids opening gifts, you can't, I mean, some of my kids try to figure out what's in the gift before, kind of thing, but you got to unwrap it. And you don't get to get the gift, the blessing, if you don't go through the process of taking that wrapper off. And I find that so much of the gold of our story, like I love listening, Dr. Stephen, your story of when we talk about the scar tissue and all the things. I love listening. You love listening to other people's stories too. What do we love? We love that, man, that was really, really hard. That's crazy that happened. Whoa. But here we are still hearing you tell the story and you're on the other side. So I want to encourage us as you're listening to some of these lessons learned, just recognize that probably every lesson that we're going to share, it was painful in the process. But the fact that we can stand here today and articulate and share what it was is a blessing. And so I'm very grateful in this moment to be able to share the lessons learned and to be able to take this time with all of you. And I hope that this is a best practice that in your practice and practices, in your organizations and places where you lead, you also will do the same thing.
So good, man. We love to share from a place of transparency. So I don't think it serves anyone when a leader or am I going to use the term influencer or somebody who's been blessed with some platform? Like this is a blessing that we get this platform. We see that. We see this as territory we've been given, and to steward it well. We've just committed to transparency, right? So, and to be able to say like, listen, everyone walks with a limp. Mm-hmm. So all these people that you look up to, right? So all the leaders, mentors, authors, experts, everyone walks with a limp, and you have to own that and understand that they have certainly been through their struggles and challenges and failures. And most likely it's the failures and their response to those failures that put them in the position of influence, right? So just be grateful, like wherever you are right now, whether you're going through the stress of abundance or the stress of lack, wherever you are right now, whether you're in this creative process that's really is getting demanding all of you, right? Or you are playing problem whack-a-mole, wherever you are on these continuums, guys, just know we have all been there, done that. And it is not a question of if, it's when is it happening or when is my next one? And just really the reality is this is like, who am I going to be when it happens? How am I going to show up? What's the attitude? What's my response? To it? And ultimately, guys, we hope that this conversation that we have with you guys every Tuesday is preparing you for these things, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we hope. Is like, we literally want to share our experience with you to keep you from making dumb mistakes, right? So it's like, we're going to all make mistakes. We're going to pay tuition, but repeating a mistake is called taxation, right? We just want to cut down on the taxes that you're paying. So if you could just like listen in, if you want to share, man, this is a great episode for you to just drop some notes in the show notes and just let us know. It's like, what are you going through right now? What are you struggling with? What looking ahead? Are you just so excited for 2025? Are you intimidated by 2025? What is it? What's on your mind right now? Do you want us to go deeper on certain subject matter? We will, so we're like the DJs. You guys are on the dance floor. We take requests. What record do you guys want us to spin? What topics do you guys want us to go deeper on? We're happy to do that. So Dr. Pete, today's all about like, what were our lessons learned personally through the year? I'll kick mine off because you use the word preparation. So I'm going to start there. One thing I know to be true is preparation is the ultimate success hack. I think we have a hack culture where people are looking for shortcuts and everybody's looking for the secrets I believe there are fast forward buttons, but I just don't think when it comes to success that there's a lot of shortcuts, right? Mm-hmm. So you can avoid the long cuts, right? But preparation is my favorite hack, right? So I might not be the smartest guy in the room or the biggest, strongest, fastest, most talented, whatever, but I've just made a commitment to showing up as the most prepared. Right. So, and I've found that that's a place where I can have influence. I can't have total control over every environment or situation, but what I can do is I can show up prepared. So, something that has served me just so well is just having part of my identity being a person that will prepare for any opportunity or any situation. And then I don't wait till there's something I have to react to. I try to listen, keep my eyes open on the road ahead and say, what can I do to best prepare so I can serve at a higher level? What is this business going to call for me? What's my team going to require from me to be as a leader? Where's my next level of leadership in my home, as my parenting, as a husband? Like, who do I want to become in 2025? And what can I do to prepare for that? I think ultimately it's my favorite success hack.
So good, man. It's going to be hard for me just to go through mine after listening to yours, because I just want to talk about that more. So this episode, we're going to have to exercise some restraint.
Yeah, exactly right.
This could be like a 3-hour episode, because I just want to like triple click on that and just sit in that for the next hour. And let's have another cup of coffee and talk about that. That's how we feel about what we're learning. But by the way, that's the power of doing this exercise. Because
right.
we're going to go back and forth. That's kind of what we agreed to do on this podcast episode, but realize we're having to exercise our own restraint and discipline right now, because I just want to triple click on that and just say, hey, let's wrestle this thing down to the ground for the next hour. One thing I wanted to say is I'm going to share
maybe each one of these can turn into an episode in 2025.
Correct.
So it could we just have a content list right here.
100%. I agree. And as you were talking earlier, here's what's crazy. I was going to say taxes versus tuition. I was going to say that. And here was what I was going to share is, the disguise of opportunity is opposition oftentimes, right? So when you feel the opposition, when you start to feel that pushback, you start to feel that is the disguise. That's your opportunity. So that's the opportunity. That's where to lean in. Like, that's where to press in. So you look for that pushback, like, oh, that's my spot. That's where I need to push in. If it was easy, hard. Oh, right here. This is the spot. It's like Jenga, you have to find like which little block to take out. My kids, we love playing that game. It's like, you got to touch each one of the pieces of wood. You're like, where's the one? Oh, this one's ready to go. Like, pa. And you move it around, you put that one on the top, and it's like, we got to lean in. We got to look for those opportunities. And in many ways, it's probably the opposite of Jenga, but you got to be able to lean in. And that's my encouragement. So my first lesson learned, I have 7 lessons learned this year. One of them is the importance of calculating your capacity. I could spend 30 minutes just unpacking this, because I could talk about your mental capacity, your spiritual capacity, your physical capacity, all these things. But I want to use the context of your clinical capacity. One of the things that I've maybe been historically known for in our profession is pushing the envelope with like volume and things like that. And Dr. Franson was as well. There's many lessons learned from just that itself. But one of the things that I loved and still love about pushing, because I like to push the envelope, is you realize there's more room to grow. But if you don't calculate it, you won't see it. And you'll settle for so much less than what's possible. But the discipline of calculating your capacity, like, think about what you could accomplish in 30 minutes. Some people say, you can't really do a lot in 30 minutes. Then you meet with somebody who crushes 30 minutes of time, and you're like, oh my God, you did like 10 times more than I could have ever thought anybody could accomplish in 30 minutes. What did they do? They calculated their capacity. They were calculated in how they took 30 minutes and squeezed 3 hours out of 30 minutes. Calculating capacity, the same applies to your clinic. If you're open 23 hours for chiropractic adjustments per week, you may say, well, our capacity is this. And the question is it true? Is that true? Is it true? And what I find by asking that question and leaning in there, I can usually double people's capacity with the work. And for some of us, we got to realize that you can accomplish so much more in the same amount of time if you learn how to capitalize on your capacity. And the only way to know that is you got to calculate it. So there's a value for calculating your capacity. And I want you to know that that's something I've really learned and reminded again this year, and learned it for myself personally, for myself professionally, for the people I get to work with professionally, and realize, man, you got to calculate it. So there has to be a best practice for us. Is we've got to keep looking at capacity. And we've done some episodes actually even about this in the past, which is cool to go back and listen to. One of the ones I loved was the lines that you did. We did that one, remember?
The pain lines.
Pain lines, huge. You guys got to go back and listen to the pain lines episode. So good. But you got to calculate your capacity.
100%. We just, I'm an investor in, I'm not an operator. I'm an investor in a new project with my family. Opened a wellness center called Bonfire Wellness. And I was just the other night teaching, like I get to do some team trainings. I'll show up. Right now it's every other week, soon it'll be once a month. And I'm just training the staff and what we know, right? So it's not a chiropractic center. It's a wellness center. And I'm translating and transferring so much of our knowledge base from our experience in that space over to them. And we were talking about capacity, and we were talking about the scheduling and how it's so multifaceted. It's like, it's not just the limited resource of minutes, but you also have to take into account the modalities that people are utilizing and the physical plant, the physical space, and the parking spaces, and the number of team members that we have going on. It's like multifaceted, and you have to be able to take in all of the dimension of what capacity is. And it forces the function of you looking at things differently from different perspectives and you just recognize there's more levers to pull, right? So ultimately you can influence and affect capacity greatly. And if you don't do this and it's not objective, then you just have this emotional response of we're busy. It's this ill-defined, we're just busy. That's just the human nature. The response is, oh, it was so busy. But if you're quantifying it, then you could say, were we really? It's like relative to what our current capacity is. And then how about this? What our next stage of capacity is? Because at the end of the day, guys, you have to create margin, and it has to be a consciousness of creating margin, because all businesses grow into margin. Businesses grow into the daylight, right? So you've got to always be increasing the capacity, which would imply that you need to be aware of what your capacity is. All right. Awesome, Dr. Pete. I'm going to kick my restraint button and just get to mine. So my next one, lesson learned for me this year was the power of focus. Okay. And the expression that you've got to keep your eye on the ball until you can afford to pay somebody else to hit it for you. The just critical nature of the discipline of staying focused. And we teach that focus is what makes the difference between busyness and productivity. And none of us want to be busier, and all of us want to be more productive. And the secret is focus. So there's so much confusion around this. When we talk about opportunities, when we talk about creating scalability. So when we talk about creating multiple streams of income and diversification and being a business owner and side hustles and all this stuff, people are getting distracted. They do not understand that the people that you admire that have multiple businesses, guess what? They crushed it in one, and they used that capital to invest in other cash flowing businesses, right? They invest in an appreciating asset that's most likely a business that has an operator that cash flows. It's like, that's being an investor. It's not being an owner operator. You cannot be an owner operator in 2, 3, 4 different businesses. It's like, I have 5 businesses. I have hardcore operators in all of them, hardcore teams in all of them. I'm not an operator. Right? So people get distracted by that. And you and I both know, to create the practice that we created, it took 100% of us. Mm-hmm. It took 100% of that. How do I know? I was married to my partner, right? So the other chiropractor was my wife, right? So we had no children. We were together 12 years before we had kids. When we built that practice, that was our kid. It took 100% of what I had. I had 0.0% of anything else going on. I'm not advocating for that. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure that I'm being, again, transparent about what it took to build that, mm-hmm. right? And that was the stepping stone to create the next iteration of my career, which was to own a coaching business, right? So, and immediately started to scale the coaching business, but more importantly, I created durability. I learned the lesson from practice that it wasn't just about creating scalability so we can do more, see more, but we could actually create durability so we could do more, see more, even in my absence. So it wasn't all literally reliant on me, right? So creating that durability is what gives you what everybody wants, which is optionality. Optionality is, I now have the options of what is the highest and best use of my time? What should I be focusing on to get the biggest return, right? So that's optionality, right? And that only comes when you have durability. right? So when you hear us talk about durability as the remarkable standard for a remarkable business, that's what that creates. The fruit of durability is optionality, right? So Dr. Pete, you have to keep your eye on the ball until you can afford to pay somebody else to hit it for you. So when you're in a position where you're like, okay, yes, I could adjust all these patients, but how about I get an associate or 2 or 3 and free my time up so that I can use my money to buy somebody else's time, energy, focus, and time, energy, focus, and talent to free up my time, energy, focus, and talent where I can make more money, right? So ultimately you have got to embrace that it comes down to not just scalability, it comes down to durability. And it's the durability that creates the optionality so that you can then become an investor.
So, and we did not talk about this before, but I'm going to have to stay with the baseball theme. I did not know you were going to describe the power of focus the way that you did, but with that, keep your eye on the ball until kind of thing. I'm going to run with the baseball analogy as well. So if you've been listening to our podcast, you've probably heard me tell stories about coaching baseball. So my youngest 2 boys, I'm now able to contribute and be a coach because, when you have olders and youngers, I'm on the sidelines carrying babies and watching them play. And now I'm in the other side where I'm like, the olders are coming, watching, and then the youngers are on the field. So I'm able to coach, which has been a blessing for me. It's been something I wanted to do, but I had to wait a decade to do it. So anyway, one of the things I've been coaching these kids from 5 to 6, and then now they're 7 and 8, right? And there was a theme that we really focused on this year that it hit me close to home. And that was the 2 things that you can control. And that's what we taught our boys. We wanted the players on our team to remember that there's 2 things that they can control. We practiced hard. Actually, we practiced a lot. We practiced hard. We practiced probably more than any other team by far in our league. But we said what you can control is effort and attitude. And that's what we held them accountable to. Because we said, how do you know if you won the game? We say this after every game. We powwow. How do you know if you won the game? Did you give your best effort and did you have a great attitude? I don't care what the scoreboard says. Don't even look at it, guys. Don't look at the scoreboard. So think about that. Like if you go to your weekly team meeting and you're looking at your scoreboard, week 2 of 4 in the month, week 8 of 13 in the quarter, whatever it is, and you're off track or whatever. The question isn't, what's the KPI and, what's the goal? That's part of the question. Deeper part of the question is, are you doing the work? Are you putting in the energy and the effort that's needed? You have the attitude that you need to have to do that. We talk about the A player has a heart, talent, and skill. This is the heart question, is attitude and effort. Did you do that? And I know that is something that I needed to be reminded for myself as a dad, as a husband, as my roles in my father role and my husband role. How has my effort been? Because my wife would confront me. She said, it seems sometimes that you put more effort and energy into the kids than you do to me. That's hard to hear. And she was right. And I can defend it. I can be like, well, I'll give you 17 reasons why that you feel that way. And I think I'm right.
And I will be accurate.
And I'm still wrong, So I'm just trying to be honest with you guys. Effort and attitude matters, but it matters in all the areas of your life. And so I saw that this year. I realized, like, Camiolo, you got some issues with effort and energy and attitude in some areas of your life. You got it going in some areas pretty well, but these other areas, not really. And again, I could defend it and be like, well, here's why. Doesn't matter. At the end of the game, the question is simply this: was your effort and attitude there? And so I just encourage us as leaders to be reminded of that. Like, it matters. And that's what we're accountable for.
So good, man. Yeah, when things aren't going your way, very often you feel like you're at a factor. I won't say the victim attitude, because I don't think we have a lot of victim attitudes listening to this podcast, but we we all can find ourselves in these positions. So one way to get your footing, like if you feel like you just can't quite get your footing, is just check yourself on that effort and attitude, right? So I love the expression that, you can't always change your situation, but you can always choose your attitude. And although that might not change your circumstances, it'll absolutely change your experience of them. and the results of your efforts, right? So I think that is just such a powerful like grounding mechanism. You got to say, all right, let me start where I do have influence. Where do I do have, my attitude on this, my perspective. Okay, God is good and he's in charge. Okay, yes, his plan's always better than my plan. Oh, roger that. It's like you just, all of a sudden you start getting your footing back underneath you. You're like, okay, now guess what happens? It's, when I did that SEAL training, this is the thing that they taught you is like, you get to control your mind because your mind is going to control your physiology. Physiology is going to prime your performance. Performance drives your outcomes, right? So if you can just get in control of the attitude and the mindset, all of a sudden your breathing slows down, your heart rate slows down. You can get this front sight focus going on right on your target. Next thing you know, squeeze the trigger. Right? So it's just get control of that physiology by getting control of that attitude. Get that mindset right. So good, man. All right. My third one is connection and the importance of connection. Felt a lot of pain this year, wrestling with a lot of pain this year with just the disconnect in certain parts of our team and parts of our country because they're spread around all over the world. Right. And didn't realize how much of a deficiency, a deficit we were left at after COVID, where people couldn't be together as much. And it had just really just built up a deficiency. That's all I can describe it as. Right. So we had a deficiency in time together, like FaceTime together. Zoom's great. Zoom doesn't replace breaking bread. Zoom doesn't replace, running on the beach, going surfing, going out for a couple of beers and it's the coffees between the meetings. It's like you cannot replace that. I don't care. You're not going to change my mind. Right. So technology is awesome. It affords us the ability to do so much more, but it can't be at the expense of doing the things that matter most. Right. So, which is being together. So I just have an ever increasing appreciation for creating the space and time to have real connection. And I think that war is either won or lost on your schedule book. And there's so much power in your schedule. If you have reverence for your schedule and you look at that as the territory God's given you, is like, put it on the calendar, put it on the schedule, block the time, create the space and time to have connections because it's the best way to communicate to people their value.
Man, so good. And I know that you wrestle with that and we, as an organization, wrestle with that. And, I'm grateful. I'll speak one thing. We had a coaches summit this year and this has become now a tradition and it's been awesome. But to be able to get together, like we meet every week as coaches and we do that and it's over Zoom and it's amazing. But when we got to that physical space to be together and to get that time, breaking bread, working out, sauna, cold plunge, talking shop, working on our stuff, just being together, laughing, eating meals, the whole thing, it's like walking on the beach, having a cup of coffee, man. It's just like, yeah, there ain't that's it right there. That's it. You're like, that's it. That's it.
This is
the thing.
Yeah.
Yep. I needed that. So man, I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you were able to see that, the value of that and prioritize that and make that investment happen, to make sure that we all did that. That's a powerful thing. So in our organization, just so you know, that's something that we do now. We all get together, as many of our coaches as possible, but it's not everybody because we are spread around the world. So it's a pain point as much as it's a huge win. It's also, man, there's a bittersweet there, and so we're having to navigate that. And I feel you, man. Maybe they're going to have at some point, like the ability to like fly like across the world and like
Elon's working on it. He'll get us dialed in. It's definitely, it's definitely, we're 3, 4, 5 years, maybe away from 1 hour flights to Europe. And, I know we are. I mark my words, put the date on 12/6/24. Franson said that we're 5 years away from 1 hour flights to Europe, 3 hour flights to Australia. This is going to happen for sure.
Good. Another lesson I learned this year. So I was fortunate to be able to have a full-time administrative assistant, executive assistant join the team and work with me. Some of you have had a chance to meet her. Her name is Emily Holder. She's awesome. Shout out to her. She joined our team in fourth quarter. One of the things she reminded me of, which was actually a really important part of her onboarding, I went through my how to live in alignment framework, which is what I hold myself accountable to. And she really kind of double clicked on one of the things I said, and she's been holding me accountable to it, which is working from rest. And I have a lot of conviction around this. It's actually every day I'm reminded of it because it's in my calendar as my first objective. And I see it and it doesn't even, I somehow just move right past it to appointment number 1 or whatever. And so she's been, reminding me of that and holding me accountable to it. And it's been annoying in a sense because I'm like, why do you have to keep reminding me of it? But I'm like, you need to keep bugging me about this because you can easily it's easy for people. I'll stay it more personally. It's easy for me to not do that because I can justify like I'm a diesel engine. I can go all day, all night, like, kind of thing. Like I can go, like I can say those things and justify and prove it to you, but I've grown past that, and yet I'll revert back to it. And I learned life lessons because of it, and I paid the price for it. And I'll find myself going back into striving and just pushing and burning it out on both ends and going. And while there's a time for things like that, and there's a place for it, some of us have a dysfunction, and I have that. And so I need to be held accountable for it. So that was a lesson learned, that remember to work from rest. So basically it's saying this, Pete, you need to trust. You need to trust the process. You need to trust God. You need to trust me. You need to let it go. You can't hold it you can't grip so tight. You got to let it go. You can't control it all. It can't all be perfect. It's going to be okay. Like these are like some of the things I got to be reminded of. God's got this. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom, she had this in the kids' bathroom growing up, the Footprints poem. I still have the vivid image in my mind of that picture on the wall of 2 sets of footprints and then 1. And I'm like, you know what? There's probably more times with 1 set of footprints in the sand than 2 in your life. And the reality is, I sometimes I need to get carried. Sometimes you're like, dude, I got nothing. And it's okay. It's okay to have nothing left. It's okay to be done. It's okay to shut her down. And Doc, you and I talk about this all the time, how important rest is, vacations, all the things. We talk about that, right? I'm talking on the day in and day out basis, resting, mental rest, emotional rest, spiritual rest, physical rest. It's all there. And you could be resting on vacation and be not resting in your mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about that for me. I'm like, no, dude, you need to take your level of rest to the next level. And that to me is a growth area that I desire to grow. So now you all know. But I'm also knowing that it's one of my values. It's one of the foundational pillars for my life to be able to live in alignment. And so I'm reminded of that. That was big for me.
Love that, man. Love that. I think we all needed to hear that. That rabid, entrepreneurial, driven spirit, which serves us so well. But blessed are the meek, right? So we got to have that bite in our mouth, right? So you got to recognize that's power under restraint, and having the discipline to be like, it just cannot be pedal to the metal all the time. It's just not sustainable. It's not healthy. Let me just say this: it ain't congruent, right? So it's not congruent, right? So I'm just a super strong advocate of just starting with that morning ritual, man, and I think just one definition of success or wealth, or however you want to think of this, is slow mornings. Mm-hmm. All right. So just to be able to start your day at a place where you can say, I have slow mornings. Like, it can't be a frenetic start. It can't be, I'm hitting the snooze. I'm getting up late. I just don't have enough. People tell stories all the time. Well, I got this going on, that going on. It's like, I'm like, get to bed earlier so you can get up earlier. Mm-hmm. And, it's at the end of the day, we all go through different seasons, babies, newborns, it's like, I get all that. I get all that. But just be super aware that that's the next iteration for you. Maybe is like, that's what I'm moving towards, and make that as important as I'm going to grow my practice, 100 visits. I'm going to increase my collections by 500,000, make it as important as like, slow mornings. That's the next iteration of me. Right. So that my heart and my head is ready for me to show up and be the hands and feet that my practice, my patients need me to be, my team needs me to be. All right. So my next one is I'm going to keep it brief because everybody knows it, but I have to say it because it's been such an important part of my year. It's typically a who, not a how, right?
Mm.
Sullivan said it best, right? So it's typically a who, not a how. And if you are in the Remarkable practice as a coaching client, if you've been to our immersions, if you listen to the podcast, you hear us say it's operationalize, professionalize, and optimize, right? So it's just like that's what we're here to do. We're operationalizing, we're professionalizing, and we're optimizing. So at the end of the day, the operationalize is taking your systems and making sure that everything is captured. You have proven systems that you're continually testing and developing, and ultimately refining and capturing in accessible manuals that are digital and maybe printed out 3-ring binders or all the above. Is just like you've operationalized the business. So if you get hit by a bus, then everybody knows exactly what to do, how to do it, who does it, when, what do we do, when, what do we say, when we do, like it's operationalized, right? So this is what allows for scalability and durability. If you don't have your business operationalized, you don't have a business, you have a job, right? So the second step is professionalize. Then it's surrounding yourself with A players who are actually better at that part of the business than you are. That's professionalizing. It's when you go from just having employees to having a team of professional A players, right? So people who are actually better at things than you are is professionalizing. And then once you have that in place, you've operationalized and now you've professionalized. The job now is just optimize. That's what you do. Like you show up and be like, is that optimized? Let's continue to optimize that. So Dr. Pete, man, this is a never ending quest. As you're a growth business, always expanding, trying to make a bigger impact, trying to make a bigger income, we need to continually survey the landscape and be checking our operations. Are they optimized? And then our team, is it professionalized? Because the next level may be more than just continuing to train and equip and develop your people. There may be a next level of people you need to bring into your organization to go to the next level.
So good. Speaking of people and the importance of who, not how, which is so true. My next lesson is it's all about relationships. My lesson is, in the end, it's about relationships. Like I shared earlier in the podcast, there's been some people close to me lost. There's been struggling with certain important relationships. I've witnessed it. I've experienced it closely. And then you realize, what do people always say? The whole quote I always remembered hearing was, on when someone's on their deathbed, they're not going to say that they wish they spent more time at work or whatever. They're going to say, I wished I spent more time getting to know my kids, or, getting to know my neighbor or whatever, spent more time with the people that I loved and people that were in my life. And maybe it's as you get a little bit older, you start to realize the significance and the importance of that. So maybe that's part of that for me, but the importance of relationships. And even in the work that I get to do in a coaching role, I'm in it for the relationships. And that's why I do the work, because I know on the other side of the relationship is another relationship, which is the one you have with your team. And then I know on the other side of that relationship is another relationship, which is the relationship you have with your patients. And I know on the other side of the relationship that you have with your patients is the relationship that they have with their families. And then I know that on the other side of that relationship is the relationship that family then has with the people in the community and in the neighborhood. And then I know, and the list goes on. It's about relationships and the importance of building and maintaining and growing relationships, and the importance of being in relationships, and then the work that it requires to do relationships well. Being honest, being vulnerable, being real, being truthful, being faithful, being consistent, being ready, being prepared, and the list goes on. Relationships are the most important thing. It's all about relationships. So that's a lesson. I'm going to throw in 2 because of the time, and also I had an extra one, I think.
Yep.
My next one is, remember to smile and laugh. I'm going to give 2 people credit for this. Number 1, my wife. She always tells me, you need to smile more. You need to smile more. And I'm like, she's like, you can't just come down or whatever, or be with the kids and be like constantly finding out what they're doing wrong and correcting them and fixing their stuff and then making everything into a project or a job or like a thing. or always looking for something that's not right and go do more jobs and more work. She's like, you gotta learn to, you gotta relax. Like you gotta laugh. You gotta see the good, this type of thing. So Mary gets credit for that, just on a day in and day out basis, reminding me of that, and how important it is so when you walk into your office, for example, maybe on Monday, if you're like me, first thing I'm looking at is I'm smelling it, I'm feeling it, I'm looking at the walls, I'm looking at the tables, I'm just looking at the floors, I'm looking at everything. I'm feeling the
arranging the chairs, fixing the art on the wall.
Everything. It's like
turning down the music, turning up the music.
Yeah. Yes. Are we ready? Is this, are we ready for it's Super Bowl Sunday? Like are we ready? Are we ready? Like just that energy. I walk in with that. And so just remember to smile and laugh, and how powerful that is. The second person is Emily again, actually, because when we have our meetings, she's always smiling. And I'm like, why are you smiling? What is there to smile about? I just need that. And, I need to be reminded, like, hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, yeah, we have a big mission. Yeah, the world is suffering. People desperately need what we have to do. Like, all the things that are concerning to me that I'm on a mission to work on. Remember, smile.
Right.
It's gonna be, And so another simple, practical lesson, but the power of smiling and laughing. So important.
Yeah. It's a tightrope, man. The balancing act of, taking your work seriously, but not taking yourself so seriously. It's like, but it's serious work. It's like, yeah, man. And you love it? Yeah, I love it. Well, show it. It's like really feel it first, then enjoy it, then show it. Yeah, man. We all need a little extra vitamin fun. That's why I hang around with people like Sebastian. If Sebastian's there, you're laughing, man. You're laughing. See, environment trumps willpower. Rick Sapio taught us that, right? So it's like surround yourself with people that make you laugh. Brett Racine, Dr. Bobby's comedy. I surround myself with just characters, and I think that that's a genius. I think there's all kinds of different genius, right? So I just think that, you have to surround yourself with people that really make you laugh. And if you don't have that person, like just readily, like I spend my time with those three a lot, right? And I love to have that kind of joy, in the relationship and in the process. So find people that make you laugh. All right. So that brings me nice segue into mine. Never fight alone. All right. So never fight alone is something that, if I look back at my history, is like, I don't fight alone, right? So I have a tendency to be a very independent person. That serves me really well. Like I've grown up as an independent person, but I'm also really social. And I just do better when I have other people around me. It's just like, I just always do better. It's just like, I'm always happier. I always elevate my game. And I just think that there's a lot to be said for that. It's just like, stop trying to do everything on your own. Like chiropractors are usually like entrepreneurial, independent, warriors, it's like lone wolf. Well, bro, the expression, the strength of the wolf is in the pack. And the strength of the pack is in the wolf. We're pack animals. Like you've got to embrace that socially, professionally, we're pack animals. So who's your circle? Who's in your pack? Who's in your foxhole? And just making sure that you are very intentional about bringing those people together, right? So inserting yourself into places where, I'm going to make sure I'm around these people, like-minded people who share my core values, who buy into my vision story, who will support me. And sometimes that means hugs. Sometimes it's high fives. Sometimes it's a headlock. It's people that are going to come alongside you and be your biggest cheerleader, raving fan, call you on your crap, right? So people that are just moving in the right direction. There are some people that will add to you and some people that will multiply you. Some people subtract from you. Some people divide you, right? So you've just got to seek out those people that are multiplicative in nature. Like when you're around them, you're just a better man. You're a better person. You're a better leader, better teacher, better coach, better chiropractor, better father, better husband, whatever it is. It's just like all of this is a battle. It's not a battle meant to be fought alone.
It's good. Man, that's powerful. I think you said it earlier. Each one of these, we could do a whole episode on it. That's how we feel.
Let us know which ones would you like us to unpack.
Yeah, I just want to recognize too. Like I know if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, man, this is a longer one. Hey, thanks for sticking with us. We've probably got just a few minutes left, but thank you for allowing us to unpack this today, because, you know, these are lessons learned, and lessons learned, they're costly, you know? And so for us to even have the time to be able to do this, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for being a listener and leaning in. I hope this has just been just a value to you. So two more for me. Number one is leadership matters. And I'll say that this is where I kind of felt it. You know, this was an election year in the US, and you kind of felt just the tension all year, especially in, you know, second leading into third quarter. I mean, if you have a cell phone or whatever, man, you're getting hit up all the time, all the stuff. I don't even know how these people get access to me. Then my emails and all the things, right? So it's just like a lot going on. There was a lot of tension around it all. But you saw after the election happened, regardless of which side you're on or whatever, I'm not here to say be political, but there was, once a decision was made, you just saw like there was a sense of relief. And I think from my side as a chiropractor, with the whole Make America Healthy again theme, which we actually launched in 2020. I still have the hat from November 9th, 2020, when I was wearing the hat. Way before this happened, when Dr. Steve, when you released that, and we championed that movement, is we were reminded of the fact that that is what we need. That is important. And leadership in making America healthy. We need leadership to make America healthy again, right? We've done some episodes on this with others. And I think for me, that was a big thing. Like, we need leadership to make America healthy again. We've tried to go from the bottom up, grassroots up, but now we're going to actually have an opportunity to go from the top down, and from the top actually make changes. And I think there's going to be a convergence. And yes, I think all the deep work we've done for 130 years as chiropractic is going to come to a level of manifestation and fruition in the next 4 years. We have that opportunity. So we got to keep showing up and doing our part. But leadership matters, because the way who leads actually has a huge effect it has a ripple effect. We always say the fish stinks from the head. You got to go to the head, you got to go to the top, and you got to work your way back. So that was my, and then my last one, Dr. Steve, and then I'll throw it to you to wrap us here, is as leaders, because it kind of ties into that leadership matters. My last one is leaders give back hope and personal responsibility. You know, one of the things that we teach is, you know, in our offices, when a new patient comes in and then they go through your process, is our role as the chiropractor, as a team, a chiropractic team, for every patient that walks through the door, is to give them hope and personal responsibility for their health.
That's right.
I'm not going to do a whole 2-day seminar on this. Join us in Orlando in June in 2025.
January 31st, February 1st.
Well, that's the team building one. I was talking about conversion and retention when we go through the whole
yeah, awesome. Yeah, sorry, you're way ahead of me.
I'm already thinking mid-year, Doc.
Bro, I apologize.
You're good. We got 2 events. Come be with us in January in Tampa. It's going to be amazing. And if you take leadership seriously and your team's leadership seriously, definitely be there, because it's our team building event, and you want to. That's right. But we as leaders, if I'm talking to a CEO on the other side of this podcast, let's say, as a leader, you give people, your team, you give them hope. How have you been doing with that? How have you been doing with giving hope to your people? I think a lot of times as leaders, we can point out what's not going well, and we're always working on the business, how to get things better. But are you also giving hope? And then the second thing is, you can't just be that owner operator and throw the pack on your back and take it up the next part of the mountain. It's also giving people personal responsibility, that accountability, that ownership, and just how important, Dr. Stephen, that is, that we as leaders, that's what you do as a great leader. You give people hope, which hope, I love the definition, is the confident expectation of good. That is powerful. And then with that comes a personal responsibility. And that's how we get to that good. And so again, Dr. Stephen, tying that in, that's how you cannot be a lone wolf or go alone, right? It enables you to do that, right? So anyway, that's so those are my big 7. I'll throw it back to you, Doc.
I love that, man. I love that. We share the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the truth is people should have hope. They should expect more out of their health, and their health, not only their health outcomes, but their health experience, right? That's the truth. And that their behaviors matter. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. Right. So your behaviors matter a lot, and you have a lot of influence in your health outcomes and your experience. That's the truth. right? And we equip them with the do's and don'ts. Do the do's and don't do the don'ts, right? So we equip them with the understanding of above, down, inside out. We equip them with strategies like getting your spine and nervous system checked regularly, right? So that's the truth, right? So, and then the flip side of that is, personal responsibility of like, this is a done with you, not a done for you program. All things worthwhile in your life is a partnership, right? This is a done with you, not a done for you program, man. And that's the two-sided sword, right? The two-edged sword, both sides of that. You give them back hope, and you got to give them back personal responsibility because they do want to participate, right? So, all right. Speaking of participation, my last one here is a life construct. I'm very, very categorical. I look at my life in the classic wheel of life, right? We practice the 7 categories that DeMartini teaches. I love that. And what I'll tell you is that for my own growth in everything, and that's what I desire, and I want to be growing all the time, is I ask 2 guys, what proven system am I following, and what mentor am I paying to hold me accountable to following it? So 2 questions. What proven system am I following in that category? And who is the mentor, expert, guide, guru, whatever coach that I'm paying to hold me accountable to following that system, right? So Dr. B, this is something for me that I will get jumpy if I don't have, like when we talk about categorical, like, so I'm talking about your spiritual walk. I'm talking about your physical walk. I'm talking about your mental walk, familial walk, financial, social, professional, each one of these categories of life. What system, proven system are you following? Or are you just making it up? Or are you Frankensteining stuff together? Right? So are you just like, but you piecemeal, well, he says this, she says that, I've seen that, I put that, I got my own thing. What proven system are you following? And what mentor are you paying to hold you accountable? Right. So ultimately for me, I just love to tick those boxes and be able to say, okay, this is the system I'm following. This is going to be my mentor, my guru that I'm going to have hold me accountable, because that's what we all know what we need to do. Right. So I need to do more of this and less of that. Yeah. Great. It's not about being informational. It's about being transformational. As we walk into this next year ahead, ask yourself those questions. So guys, this for me is, why we get out of bed every day, right? So, to provide that proven system, to be that mentor who wants to come alongside you, okay, and to support you. Hugs, high fives, headlocks, whatever it takes to help you achieve your vision of success, your success story. That's what we're here for. So we so appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. This is such an awesome, powerful vehicle platform for us. And we really appreciate your fellowship, your followership, and the fact that you guys are advocates of what we're doing, and your advocacy is very important. That's how we reach more people. If you know that you thought of people today during today's podcast, during this episode, share it with them. It's the way we reach more chiropractors. At the end of the day, we started this and we continue to do this for one reason. What the world needs now is chiropractic. And what chiropractic needs right now is more successful chiropractors. God bless. Let's make it a remarkable year.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.